up to us because we lease it to the bank. It's really them.
All right, good evening and welcome to the Town of Beekman Planning Board. If you will notice, we have exits here, there, and also through the hallway. And if you'll all please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of our country. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Just a quick moment of silence for all of our service members and first responders.
And the Ukraine.
And the poor people of Ukraine. Thank you. All right, there's been a change in our agenda. The public hearing will not be taking place this evening. The applicant has requested that it be moved to the February 16th meeting. All right.
Do we need to make a motion for that, or?
No?
It was noticed for today for the public hearing?
No, it was an adjournment, date specific from previous meetings.
Okay.
They're waiting on information from the Department of Public Works.
The public hearing will remain open.
Right, and we didn't want to move until we knew what the disposition is with the Department of Public Works, so.
Okay. Very good. All right. So, all right. So are we gonna just stay in order now? What did we decide about Greenhaven flip-flopping with Sparrow's Nest? Is that-
May I assist?
Go ahead.
Who's here with Greenhaven, the solar?
Thank you.
There's been a request by Sparrow's Nest, the second on the agenda, which, if they could precede you tonight, they're gonna be fairly quick.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, of course.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
It's purposely put away.
All right. Okay, is Sparrow's Nest here? Stephen?
Need to take a motion in, is that what you're saying? Okay, at your request, I prepared a part 2 and part 3 of the short environmental assessment form. We did make one minor change today with regard to the response to number 9 in part 3. Our recommendation is that it was a negative declaration based on no or small impacts for the entire project. But we did write that narrative if everybody's had a chance to take a look at it, if everybody agrees with it. We would suggest that you move on that. And the applicant has also asked, if that happens, if we would be in a position to send a referral to the Zoning Board of Appeals for the variance.
Okay.
You need a motion?
Okay. So everybody had a chance to read it on the board? Yeah? All right. Okay.
I'd like to accept the short environmental assessment as submitted, part 2
And part 3.
and part 3.
Is there a second motion?
Second?
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, the vote is unanimous.
I would also like to offer a referral to the zoning board.
Okay.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 What they would be looking for is if it was a positive referral or if there was any reasons behind it. So
Okay.
One of the ambiguities of this project is that it's in the town center, which calls for things to be up front towards the road. But there's also within our code supplemental conditions for special use permits, such as charitable foundation facilities like they are asking for, which say it's supposed to be 100 feet back. They met that with the intent of, and with some of the guidance from this board. So I just think you might want to say, if you're going to make that referral, you might want to say that there was a reason behind it, and it would be that it was more in compliance with the supplemental conditions within our code and fit better with the character of the neighborhood, considering the library across the street, et cetera. So
I concur.
Very good, I'll back you up, Peg.
So,
it'll be like 90.
All right, so based on
For the
what
front
the
yard.
engineers say.
For the front yard setback, yeah.
So Dan, who will be writing the letter? Is it me? Is that, okay, so, very good. I better write the motion then down. So,
I can help you with that as well.
yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
Basically, okay,
For the stated reasons.
Yeah, they just did.
Wasn't one of them that they had to have a more acreage?
What are the variances that are,
Yes, the two.
Yes.
The one about the front yard setback being within 0 to 15 feet, and the second one is that it's a not-for-profit and has a minimum of 5 acres. And we only have 3.35.
Right.
right. Yeah,
So those are the two
very good.
variances.
Good catch.
I pay attention.
okay. So a
I
motion.
mean, they still, regardless of what we say to the zoning board, they still have to meet the criteria of a zoning variance at the zoning board.
Hardship.
Yeah, so.
Correct.
I mean, we could just give them a favorable recommendation. And then it's up to the zoning board to decide you know,
Okay.
what they're gonna do.
Yep. All right, so I made my notes. So favorable referral, the chairman will prepare a letter for a favorable referral to the zoning board of appeals in regards to the setback, character, and conflicting codes.
And the lot area we'll mention. in there
Lot
as well.
area size, right. 3 acres versus the 5 in the code for non-for-profits. So do I have a motion?
I'll
Yeah,
make the
To that
motion.
effect? Yep. Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Any other comments or issues to discuss? Right?
I think
Good
they
seeing you again. Yeah. Thank you.
Take care.
Have a good night. Appreciate it. Okay.
They don't really, they just go there.
We're saying you can't get it going further.
Check.
First of all, they meet the conditions, they meet the conditions.
Hardship, that's it.
Good evening. Good evening. This is Green Haven Road Solar Community. And Dan, would you like to start it off, or?
Sure, just jotting down a couple things here. We prepared a draft resolution of approval, which is in regard to the water resource permit, site plan, which would be preliminary site plan, conditional, final site plan, and special use permit approval. There are a few items that the board will need to do, we'll need to go through. Just very quickly on the water resource permit, there's some standards. I had mentioned that on page, let's see. Sorry, bear with me for a minute here. Yep, page 4 of 6, it's in the middle there. We also had some information about the Aquifer Overlay District. There's 5 particular standards are to meet. In both cases, the applicants worked with us to minimize any of those impacts we feel. We had them minimize the disturbance for the water resource permit, which was disturbance to the buffers along our streams. We also had them protect a couple more trees than they were showing initially, which will help keep the stream cool. So we felt like they met those standards, and with the aquifer overlay, there really aren't any, wastes generated from this that are going into the ground or anything like that. So we assumed that those were being met as best as they could be. There was some information once we circulated the draft resolution that was provided by the applicant about 25-year lease as opposed to the 20-year lease. So there was a point when the presenters had said 20 years with a 10-year lease or 10-year option, and the newer engineer here representing the project had mentioned it's a 25-year lease with 4 5-year options to extend. So we very recently, within the last couple hours, put some of that information into the resolution that they had formally provided some documentation to that effect today. It changes a couple of things with regard to the decommissioning, and they've basically said that they're going to work with us on that, but it's in as a condition of the resolution as well. So, but Craig, did you have some things to add on the
Yes.
lease?
With respect to the lease, the maximum term was changed from 30 years, so 20 plus 2 5s, to 45 years. The proposed decommissioning plan that was provided in the planning reflected the lower term, which would have been a maximum term of 30 years. So what we're recommending is in the conditional approval that the applicant come back with a new decommissioning plan to reflect the maximum possible term here if all extensions are exercised over 45 years. In addition, planning department is recommending a review every 5 years by the department to ensure that the decommissioning plan is adequate at that moment in time, since it's an inexact science at the moment and it's such a lengthy term here. It's over 40 years.
So Craig, the review would be start at 25 years or sooner?
After 20 years, you can make that determination. I would recommend at least 20 years, and then every 5 years after that 20th year, it would be incumbent upon review. Now, there is a safeguard in the statute that if something happened to the solar company, it would fall back on the owner of the property. So, just wanted, Dan and I were talking about making sure that that is reflected in any maps and easements.
The owner of the property is aware and in a position to handle that?
I don't fully understand what falls back to the owner. I wouldn't think there'd be anything. Because we have a bond or something on file for you guys.
In case the bond is inadequate, or God forbid the company goes belly up and there's nobody there. The bond is inadequate at that moment in time. That's why a 5-year review period after a certain period of time would be appropriate. Feel it would be appropriate.
Sure, I'm used to that. I've not heard of anything falling back on the property owner because it's fully under the lease of whoever owns it.
If there's
And
an
then,
efficiency.
if the company didn't exist anymore and went under for some reason, which it's very unlikely, but that's when you guys have the bond on file for the town to take care of paying
And if that amount is deficient for us to be able to do it, the remainder falls on the property owner. We're not gonna pay for your solar panels to get
Sure,
removed.
but like,
Period.
so would the property owner have a say in who you consult with, like, because the town doesn't have any real leg in the game of, being efficient with removing it then, right? Like, if, say, well, it costs us this much,
If the town
we've
had
never-
to come in and
Yeah.
use self-help to remove the solar panels, that's when that would fall into place, that condition.
So stay in business.
I mean, we can, I've never heard of anything falling back on the property owner, that's all. That's new to me, but,
But the property owner should be made aware of that.
I think what it is this is all very new, right? So I don't think we have a solar farm that has been decommissioned yet, have there?
no, none of them.
Right.
They're very profitable to people.
They're very profitable,
So
right.
nobody's gonna take it. That's,
Well, the concern is, the grants are, in effect, contributing to their profitability right now, no?
well, to build them, once they're built, they're
Yeah.
absolutely going to make, this power. So even if they go under for the person that originally owns it, somebody else is gonna buy the asset and make some power off of it, and it's going to be valuable. It's not going to somehow become, invaluable. So the odds of it becoming decommissioned are very, very low, because it will always, just like if you default on your house, they're not gonna tear the house down, like somebody else is gonna buy it.
I just think in 45 years, a lot could happen.
I hear you. No, I hear you. That's why I agree. That's why I wouldn't. I mean, odds of it being the same property owner in 45 years, I don't know. It's just
Right.
What's the lifespan of these panels?
the panels are about 25 years now, 25 to 30 years before they
And we
get,
know that because we've had them for 25 years?
the newer ones, the oldest ones, yes.
Yeah.
And they do a lot of testing on degradation. So the degradation tests are standardized. The amount of degradation over X amount of time has been proven to, and they get better all the time. So, they're rated to last 25 years at 80% value. At 80% value, of their rated output for wattage. And at that point, that's when the owner would have to come in and likely start replacing some panels. But the racking in itself would stay in the ground and be fine. I mean, there might be a couple damaged spots or whatever, but they would replace the parts that aren't working correctly with new parts. It's not like it would all have to come out.
Just out of curiosity, what is the difficulty in us just protecting ourselves and putting a clause in the event that
Well, it's actually in our law.
it's in our law? Okay.
This isn't negotiable.
I don't,
Oh, all right, fine.
I don't think he's disagreeing, he's just saying
I've just never
it
heard
sounds awkward to him.
It sounds awkward to you.
You're,
I'll recite the
Am I-
First
section.
time I've ever heard it at any.
am I correct in saying you're okay with it, you're in concurrence with it?
I'm okay with it. That's why we want to make sure that what we have for decommissioning is adequate. So,
Yeah.
we put a lot of time and effort into that. So I don't think there would be anything
she
left
has to
over.
sign it.
It's just the first time
Do I need to
if
do
something
anything?
happens
Is there
and it's
anything
in the
about
town's hands to
Do I need to do anything?
decommission this thing and they just, it costs way more than it should because they don't have any real reason to keep the budget low, then I just wouldn't want them to stick it to the property. You know what I mean? It's just the first I've heard of it. But, I'm not saying none of us are going to be dealing with it in 45 years or whatever, but it's just the first I've heard of it. So,
It's under local law.
okay. Yeah, then
I
it's,
encourage you to look at, I sent it to the prior engineer, the
Okay.
successor engineer, the
Yeah.
second one.
all right.
Yeah.
I'm the second one, so I did not see that.
It says the decommissioning plan shall recite the fact that upon the failure or inadequacy of the bond or guarantee specified in this section, any cost of removal and remediation not covered thereby shall be the responsibility of the applicant and/or owner of the property jointly and severally, and any unpaid sums shall become a lien upon the property.
Okay, so it says applicant and or owner, so that's fine. As long as we don't want anything to be on the owner, that's not part of our agreement, but it would be on the applicant and whoever owns it, but again.
And/or the owner, so
Yeah.
one of you is
Yeah.
taking care of it.
Okay,
Yeah.
thanks.
Just concern?
I can give you an update on that, or you want to give an update on that?
Mr. Lasardi. I received an easement, a couple of easements, agreements from the neighbor who's represented by Mr. Lasardi, who's been before this board a number of times. He represents Dytron. There's an agreement in principle, but I will let Mr. Lasardi speak to that. But as of now, it's acceptable as to forming content from the town attorney review perspective. If Mr. Lasardi wants to be heard.
Please, Mrs.
Yes, good evening, Mr. Chairman and board members. Robert Lusardi, Daniels Portland Lusardi, we represent Dytron. Excuse me, way back when we had a number of concerns that Dytron had raised and that the board had raised in this matter, I believe we resolved them with one exception, and that is the easement. This board had requested that as a condition of this approval that the parties arrive at an easement agreement for the stormwater from the Dytron property to be disposited into a stream on the Dixon property, where the solar farm is located. And we negotiated. It was a very difficult negotiation that went on for months and months and months. We did ultimately arrive at an agreement about 2 months ago, and we've been trying to get that agreement signed since. We finally received a copy of the signed agreement from Ms. Dixon, the owner of the property. It was about a week ago. And it was not in proper form. She had signed in the wrong place, it wasn't properly notarized, and it's not a document that we can record. So we wanted to just make the board aware of that. There is an agreement, but it hasn't been executed, and we would ask that any approval of this board be subject to and conditioned upon that agreement being signed.
And that's condition number 6 on our draft resolution, which is prior to the signing of the plan. That easement should be finalized and approved by the town attorney.
Well, that would be part of the conditional approval.
Correct.
So nothing happens until conditions are met and nobody can sign off.
That's correct. Yep.
The agreements are usually signed simultaneously or contemporaneously with the signing of the map, because they go hand in hand. As long as the applicant and Mr. Lusardi's client are aware that, nothing gets done without us getting that recording page received. That condition will remain outstanding until we do get that recording page received for both documents.
Sure. Yep, I understand that.
So then I guess I would recommend that the general condition, which is on page 6 of 6, we add number 2, which may say the decommissioning plan shall be updated and submitted to the town of Beekman Planning Department after 20 years and every 5 years thereafter until the site is decommissioned. Does it sound?
Yeah. The failure, I would add, the failure to do so could result in the revocation of the special use permit pursuant
Could?
to town code, yes.
Could or
Could.
will?
No,
Or,
could.
okay.
It's discretionary.
The failure to do so could result in the revocation of the special use permit.
That would fall upon the planning board, Craig, make that determination.
Pursuant to town code section 155-43. That would fall upon the planning department to report that the
And there was one other thing that's not exactly resolution related, but there was some talk about the trees that got brought up at the last meeting, the November meeting. And the applicant has responded that they didn't want to make a change to the other tree because of a height. But I think that the height was not any different than what was already there that was going to be substituted for. So maybe you can explain that one a little bit for the board.
Yeah, I think I was looking at the table that we had, which apparently said max height of 30, but I think it's minimum height of 30, so. The information that you provided, that the one's 30 feet and 65, and the other's 35 and 60 feet, that's fine with us. We'll do whatever. We can split them 40 trees and 40 to keep it differentiated, or did you want to entirely switch all 80 trees? Is there a preference?
So it's a case of substituting.
We're talking about on the Klein's property.
I'm confused. I don't know what we're talking about.
Could you
It's on the-
inform us what we're?
Yeah, it's on
Is this
the,
on the Klein's property?
No, it's along the Dytron property.
The Dytron property. Okay.
There's 80 northern, where is it?
So it was Norway spruce as opposed to eastern red cedar.
Right. They're both approximately the same height, mature. The comment was that, we should, adding Norway spruce to increase the planting variety. So there's 80 total eastern red cedar proposed. We could take out 40 of those and replace 40 of them with the Norway spruce, or was it the commenter's preference that replace all the eastern red cedar with the Norway spruce? Well, we're fine with either.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I believe Rob weighed in on that, and it was a matter of diversification of species versus, is that what we?
Yeah.
I'm still confused with what you're saying.
Okay.
Are you saying we asked you to put Norway spruces instead of eastern red cedars? Because that doesn't sound like something I would have
Rob,
said.
I think you and I had a discussion about it, and I think that I was a proponent of utilizing some Norway spruce in addition to the cedar. I think that's how things went. Because my feeling is that the Norways would do well in damp areas.
Right, that is correct. That's my recollection. And yeah, looking at the planting table, we are proposing 80 eastern red cedar. If we want to replace 40 of those with Norway spruce, we're fine with that. Or if we want to replace all 80, but I think the comment is about diversification, so I think 40 and 40 makes the most sense. So we'll do that.
You okay with that? 40?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Okay, substitute about 40. Okay, and we would look for that on the final plans, so we have that in our notes now, so.
Okay.
I have zero recollection of that discussion, but that's okay. It sounds like something we would have talked about. It's
Listen.
just me, I don't remember.
It impressed me, so I remember it clearly.
I do remember talking about diversity.
Diversity,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Homogeneous, and you talked about disease that could affect the whole species, and then we'd have a whole area open.
So what are our marching orders? Do we have to now?
If you're so inclined, you can make a motion to approve the amendment, or the resolution as just amended to add that condition number 2, the general condition number 2.
Yep.
Which would be granting of a preliminary site plan, a water resource permit, conditional final site plan, and special use permit.
Okay.
I'm prepared to move forward on that.
Yes. All right.
So I'll make a motion to approve the amended resolution.
Can I have a second?
Yeah, they've gone through the hoops. I'll second the motion.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Roll call vote.
Yes.
Roll call vote, starting with Jason Evanton. Bono?
Before I say anything, one more time, so all this is contingent on all these items being,
Right
Being
now,
met.
yeah, the amendment,
because there's a lot on the plate here that I'm really not comfortable with. That's why I'm asking the question.
So let's have the
problem.
discussion, yeah.
yeah, we'll have a discussion, Jason, so.
What part's
Rob,
not
go ahead and,
comfortable, Jason?
I just
Dan-
think there's a lot of ambiguity here with
So Dan, explain the
stuff to be done.
first.
Yeah, I mean, we
Purpose of the
normally,
first
He said that he was uncomfortable with some things. I just asked him, what is he uncomfortable with? An idea, want to know.
First of all, I think that the decommissioning plan and not having the ratified easement are two big things, and I think that should be settled before we move forward, no?
so what this does is it adds that as a condition. If they don't do that, and Craig and I have to write off on that, then they don't get a signed plan.
And I won't sign
So-
the resolution.
So what it is at the beginning, or the end of page 4, there are the beginning of the number of conditions of the approval that have to be satisfied before the plan is signed. Without the plan, they can't pull a building permit.
Right.
That's period. So the granting of a conditional approval doesn't mean anything if they don't follow through with satisfying the conditions of the approval. So there's those 9 that have to deal with the time before they get the plan signed. And then there's more conditions that are prior to them being able to do any earthwork or getting a building permit. And then before they're able to get a certificate of compliance, there's a few other issues, or a few other conditions on there. So they still have work to do, yes, I agree.
What about the results of meeting with the fire advisory board? Like, how does that get ratified?
Right, so they've shown what the fire advisory board has asked at this point. And one of the things that the fire advisory board said was that they were gonna be able to go out there and do a test run out there and work with them. And I think they were also gonna get some training on the solar panels as well as part of that. So, fighting fire on or near
Electric.
the electric, yeah, which is let it burn. But what was important for the fire advisory board was making sure that the other areas were protected. So they were talking about fire breaks and then also getting access ways to maybe get like a, F-550 type of truck out there that could carry a little bit of water, or some guys with some Indian tanks or whatever else. And then also just the training that was offered on how this was gonna be dealt with as a standard operating procedure for the fire department if they were ever called to the site.
And the discussion about the level of mowing.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Schedule for that.
Who determines, because I don't know that anything's been decommissioned yet, but who determines what's a proper decommission plan, and does it come back to us? I'm uncomfortable with not having a specific plan in place. And again, I don't have the expertise. I think that the legal issues should be addressed before we go forward. I mean, what's it gonna take to get that resolved? I'm just uncomfortable going forward with those things not being spelled out. Because I don't know if you, maybe you do, but there has been no decommission that I know of as of yet, has there?
Has there been one physically, you mean?
Right.
Not that I know.
So we're flying by the seat of our pants, and they haven't provided us with a plan.
There are a number of, decommissioning plans and estimates on file with other towns. And I know Craig has worked with some as well, but just really quick with regard to the easement, the owner did sign, but she signed in the wrong spot. That's so,
It's still not
of
legal.
course, you know, so, but the comfort I got out of that was that the owner went to sign the plans and the paper.
And
so-
the other issue is the owner understanding that if your company in 15 years goes under, then she would have to, or he, or whomever, would have to make up the difference between the bond and what it costs to decommission, which right now, we don't know what that is, 20 years from now. We have no idea. I'm
Right, all we
very
have is some
uncomfortable
estimates.
with,
Yeah, we provided plans and estimates to your point of but not providing anything.
you couldn't predict 20 years from now, can you?
We,
Inflation is,
construction estimates are pretty accurate.
Are they?
I mean, we know what it takes. It's not anything that complicated. So we provided those estimates to the town, and they reviewed it, and we put inflation numbers over the standard percent of inflation because inflation
is the owner aware that they may end up holding some of the burden?
Apparently, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't?
No, it's a law. So I mean, that's what my concern was that, you know, we weren't fully aware of it, but we're going to have the estimate high enough that it's not going to matter because we can estimate what it's going to cost to remove. There's nothing. You just unscrew the racking from the ground. You remove the concrete.
What's the dollar amount of your bond?
I don't have it in front of me. It's probably $200,000.
That's it?
Yeah, that's a good amount of money to remove.
But I do understand, though, that it's actually more expensive to recycle than to scrap. Is that right? So there's two
Yeah,
approaches.
So we
to the
provided that
process.
estimate to just actually throw everything away,
But-
which
but-
wouldn't happen as well. Somebody would buy them from
But
you
that
if you
doesn't
wanted,
mean
but-
that doesn't mean that your estimate is the end cost of decommissioning, because you have to recycle or
Dispose of.
dispose of,
That we factored that in.
which we don't know.
Well,
100,
well,
200,
If I may,
go ahead,
Faye,
I'm sorry.
the answer to that is we have to agree to it, okay? Now, I don't know what and I'm in construction, I don't know
Right.
what the cost.
No.
We relegate that decision to our town attorney and our town engineer. That's what this is saying. Now, you're saying you gave that to them
Right.
already.
Yes.
So my question would be then to Dan, did you review the estimate that he gave you?
We've reviewed the estimate, yeah.
Okay, so this condition here is really just relating to the discrepancy of the inconsistency in the years.
Well, yeah, we had them add 25 years of inflation.
Right, so you were just, you didn't have a problem with the estimate, you had a problem
No.
with the years.
No.
So,
And part of the reason I didn't have a problem with the estimate, and, you know, obviously, we don't know what it's gonna cost then. You know, there could be a lot of changes in 20 years, you know, for all we know, these things could be considered hazardous waste in 20 years. I don't know that. We don't know that. But at some point, you know, the law protects us in terms of the owner or the applicant, whoever's still around, having to pick up whatever the difference is.
What happens if the applicant, not the owner, just says, you know what, it's not worth it to me, and they walk away? Then what happens?
So the bond is supposed to cover the demolition and removal, okay? That's basically what it covers. In the event that it's insufficient, our law is written as such that not only would we look to the bond, but any deficiency would act as a lien on the real property of the owner. So it's collateralized that way. There's a value to the property. And, you know, hopefully the shortfall, it should, if any, should be covered by the owners, by that lien.
I think the risk, if you look at like a risk, from a risk assessment point of view, you've drastically reduced it. In the event it doesn't cover it, it's not going to not cover it by double, or there's going to be a much smaller amount. If we find out later it costs a lot more to do these things, most of it's, at least most of it's going to be covered by the bond, but we then have a mechanism to go after the owner or the owner's property to retrieve the rest.
Hey, Faye, to help answer this, I don't remember what the state organization is. Is it NYSERDA? Who's the state, there's a state organization that oversees and is responsible for, solar projects.
It's NYSERDA, yeah. NYSERDA, yep.
Was it?
NYSERDA, like you said.
NYSERDA,
Yes.
okay. I would assume, never assume,
No,
right,
they're
okay.
letting people out of
But
prison.
hopefully, they have some ideas to answer your question. And maybe what we should do is, contact them and get input. I know from, some training I did last year with this, that they have, for instance, they have a recommendation on how much, a yearly inflation rate. Okay? Now, I'm sure that's gonna change, but maybe maybe before we move forward any further, we should consult them or ask the engineer to consult with them.
I can speak to that a little
Get
bit,
some,
if you don't mind. NYSERDA has released guidance on how to create decommissioning estimates, and that was the original basis for how we created our decommissioning estimate, but their guidance isn't nearly as robust and doesn't include as many things as our estimate does, because over the years, towns and everybody's like, well, why don't you include this or this or this? So we've included that. Our decommissioning estimate is much more robust than what NYSERDA recommends as a decommissioning estimate, and that's to safeguard everybody and to make sure it's accurate and incorporates everything. So we did use NYSERDA's guidance to create our estimate. Ours is more robust than what they recommended in order to make sure that everybody's comfortable with it. We did include 3% inflation, I believe, instead of 2.5%, which is, I believe, what NYSERDA recommends. I actually know that NYSERDA recommends 2.5%. So we included 3%. We know inflation's high. If it's going to make a difference, I'm fine with doing a reevaluation of the decommissioning estimate every 5 years, starting at 5 years. We can have escrow with the town for Dan's company to do another review of it. That's fine with us to make sure it's more accurate, because that protects our landowner and also protects you guys. We've done that with other towns. It's not atypical. So if that helps things, we can do that.
Every 5 years, starting right away.
Yeah, the only thing I would add is I would direct the applicant to thoroughly review our solar law, because the owner has to also sign off on that decommissioning plan. Not only does the company applicant, but the owner does too.
She may be aware of that. I'm not as in connection with her. It was news to me, but I know everybody from the owner to my colleagues would like things to move forward regardless. So.
I'm sure.
I can guarantee you that.
the way the economy is at this point, maybe what on this decommissioning, maybe it should be as suggested every 5 years, but maybe it should start now, if you follow what I'm trying to say. In other words, 5 years from date of approval or date of signing, and in 5-year increments for the length of whatever your contract is going to be.
I believe that our current estimate estimates what it is now, and what I'm proposing is that, every 5 years we revisit it, if that's what you're saying.
So you already had that built into the decommissioning plan, that you were going to reevaluate it every 5 years?
No, I'm proposing that. I think the town we were proposing 20 year, starting at 20 years to do it every 5 years.
Right.
But I'm proposing that we could
Start at
start
5
it, we
years.
could do it every 5 years. I think typically that we put money in escrow for the town to pay the engineer to review it to make sure it's still accurate. So we would just put the money in the escrow and have that start in 5 years rather than 20. And then we're
Would that
guaranteeing
make you
it's going to be
feel-
more accurate, right?
Would that make you feel more comfortable with it?
It puts a burden on our engineer.
Huh?
It puts a burden on our engineer. We happen to have an excellent one right now, but who knows in 10 years?
Well, at least at this point, Faye, we're covering as best we can. We're doing what we can to really protect all the parties involved. It not only protects the town, but it protects the owner, and it also protects the
The neighborhood.
site leaser.
Right. So typically the bonds are only good for 5 years as well. So it's like you do a 5-year bond, you review it, you get another bond based on what you agreed upon.
What happens if you don't renew your bond?
That's a legal question that I'm not as familiar with, but I know there's mechanisms for it.
The special use permit can be revoked.
And then we have to decommission.
Then we do a stump work on they're not allowed to operate the facility?
Well, then the bond, we can call the bond, but that's a million possibilities, but yeah. The law has all these worst case scenarios built into it, and that is what the town board approved. So it's not within the purview of the board to question whether the law is adequate, but we're gonna have to trust that they follow the law, the local law, our solar law, and all the conditions.
So in the event that we assess the bond and construction costs skyrocket, and we say, we look at it and we say, this bond is not, at this point, it's not going to be sufficient, do we have the authority to insist that you increase the bond amount? And are you subject to that?
Yeah, I believe that's what the reevaluation would state.
Okay.
And that's what.
Yeah, that would be that every 5-year valuation then.
Yeah. I mean, I was okay with the original 20, but if now you're going to 5, of course, I'm not going to be against that, except to the other members on the board who are uncomfortable with the decommissioning plan.
Faye, does that help?
They have the
Somewhat.
option to operate this now for 45 years.
How about the other part of the sum?
Am I correct? The wording of this now is they have the option to operate it for 45 years, right? And
That's
renew
what
every
the-
5 after 20 for 5.
It's 25-year lease, and we've also
25
asked
years
them,
for
we
4.
put this in as the general conditions, every time there's a lease change or an amendment or an extension, that they provide a copy to the town too. So we're aware of what they're anticipating still being on the site for how long and whatnot. So it keeps things a little fresh for the building department, which we know
Right.
I probably won't be here, somebody, at some point, so, there's gonna be a lot of people that change over, and then this is one of the ways that we can help keep track of these things that are out there, particularly with a special use permit.
I might add that if an option is not exercised, that means the lease will no longer be in effect.
Right.
At which point, it either has to voluntarily be demolished and removed, or worst case scenario, the bond kicks in.
Yeah. These are more.
I'll just add that we spent a substantial amount of time preparing that estimate based on what's in the plans. It's not like we haven't done that, and it's been reviewed. I'm a professional engineer, Dan's a professional engineer. We do our best to make it exactly as close as we can, and that's the best that we can do, and that's what we've done.
And I mean, regarding Jason's issue of, having so many conditions, certainly I sympathize with that. I've actually made that complaint in previous board meetings, that we're constantly approving projects with so many conditions. And it used to be, years and years ago, that you'd have 1 or 2 conditions. With the health department approval would always be one condition. And it's seemingly, there's a lot more these days. We're having to approve, site plans with more conditions. That being said, I'm sympathetic to it, but the types of conditions that are being proposed in this resolution are they're just discretionary decisions. They're not anything that would require in-depth debating. It's either they do it or they don't do it. And it's something that's an easy checklist for the town engineer and town attorney to make sure it gets done. So if they don't do it, we don't sign it, it doesn't move forward. It's not something we should get hung up on. And so I'm comfortable with those conditions, and I'd rather not wage the battle or try to solve this problem under this application. They've been before us for 2 years, an extended length of time. We should have this discussion on conditions, but maybe not subject this one application to that issue.
I may add to that, though, the conditions that were just discussed are just a regurgitation of the local town code. So
Right, they're standard, typical conditions. So,
you're not adding anything that's out there, way out there, outside of your authority, because you're just conditioning it on the law.
yeah, right.
So there's a framework for you to follow, and you don't have to, it's not this board's job to police it.
It should be easy enough to keep track of this stuff with the technology, computer technology today.
Yeah.
So it's not like you were thumbing through 5 years worth of paper.
So I'm prepared to move with an amended motion, not a motion, but amended motion
You're going to amend your motion?
to reflect the assessment of the decommissioning to a 5-year period, beginning with the approval of the site plan. Is that how I should do it, Dan? Or I need to amend my motion, right? Because we're amending the resolution?
So, general condition number 2 could be the decommissioning plan shall be updated and submitted to the Town of Beekman Planning Department every 5 years until the site is decommissioned. The failure to do so could result in the revocation of the special use permit pursuant to Town Code 155-43.
Yeah. Oh, I see. Okay.
Every 5 years, starting at
Commencement.
plan approval,
Yeah.
starting at plan approval.
Yeah, it says every 5 years until the site is decommissioned, so that
Yeah.
it starts the clock, as far as I'm concerned. But
Okay.
you want me to clarify that a little differently?
No, as long as it's understood when it starts. In other words, it's, yeah, actually, I do want you to clarify.
Every 5 years.
Every 5 years, starting at the 5-year clock is to start at the,
Is it the commissioning of the site, or is it the signature?
No,
I think
actually, we're doing it,
I think the
How about
signature.
the issuance of the
we're
building
talking
permit?
every 5 years from the beginning of their operation,
Right,
is what it is.
That's why I
right,
missed
well,
it.
that's
Yeah.
what we're,
Not decommissioning, yeah.
So every 5-year anniversary of the commissioning approvals?
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought you said decommissioning.
No.
Jason, you said
Well-
commissioning, yeah.
When the site starts.
It was my amendment, so I get to say.
but is it,
I'm ready to write, go
but
ahead.
is it?
You can amend my amendment, but my amendment was at the moment of approval, which constitutes the approval, the signing of the plat.
Right.
That's how I always treat it, yeah.
Yeah, so,
I agree with Rob.
Every 5 years, once the plan is signed, from the date of the signature on the plan. How about
so
that?
he may sign the plan, it may take him a year to put this up.
No, it's a solid
Then
point.
in 4 years,
Right.
from that point,
The date of the planning board chairman's signature on the plan.
I'll go with your amendment, Rob.
Do you guys have any other issues that you want to discuss? Because I'll make that amendment now. So I'm amending my previous motion to include number 2, as you stated there. Maybe
I'll
just
read
state
it again, just
state
for the
it.
record.
Yeah.
Decommissioning plans should be updated and submitted to the Town of Beekman Planning Department every 5 years from the date of the planning board chairman's signature on the plan until the site is decommissioned. The failure to do so could result in the revocation of the special use permit pursuant to Town Code 155-43.
So moved.
Second.
Second by Peter Poltrak. Any discussion? Proposed amendments? Roll call vote. Jason Abentuano?
Aye.
Aye.
Fay Guido?
Aye.
Robert Lepine, aye. John Frustacci, aye.
Aye.
And Peter Poltrak, aye.
Is there anything else we need to do tonight with regard to Greenhaven Solar? Okay.
That was
Preliminary.
We just approved it.
okay. All right. I do have that form for John to sign.
Preliminary water resource plan, conditional final.
Dan, do you want me to go forward and sign the grant
Did you sign that?
approval letter?
Good seeing you.
The 930. Do you have it?
I corrected.
He has
23?
But I just wrote it in. So.
Yep.
Yeah.
I sent that to you. Do you have any issue with him signing that?
You handled that very well, John. Thank you.
No, thank you.
Oh.
Literally 2 years.
Write conditional in there? Okay. You have a pen? Okay. Okay, you can sign that.
I know.
There you go, right?
It might be. As long as, then you can show him. So make sure she signs in the right place and notarizes it. Probably just in,
Out of my purview, I was told that she didn't do it right, so I saw it, she signed it, but
yeah, it's probably just a mistake.
yeah, they're confusing because they don't have somebody that's an expert in it.
Yeah.
Rob just wanted to know if you thought I was entitled to a little plaque for the longest public hearing, 6 months.
You guys, you were like the longest public hearing.
I just wanted to throw that out there. You know, like a little mallet, you know, with
I
my
think
face.
I think they deserve that.
Maybe like a mallet with my face on the, what do you call the thing that you hit? Put my
Gavel.
face on that, the
Yeah,
gavel.
yeah, yes, that would be appropriate.
Make sure it was
Thanks, good luck. Greenhaven? I mean apartments.
Yeah, let's just take a little,
Yeah.
use lines.
That's fine. Yes.
Anybody want to take a little break?
Thank you. All right.
Okay, next on the agenda is Barton Orchard's Farm Market.
That's across the river, right?
Good evening.
Good evening. I'm Michelle Zerfus with Berger Engineering. And what we'd like is, I'd appreciate if you could if we could set the public hearing for next month, so that we can start to combine things and work towards the final plan.
Is there a way to turn the volume up on that? or Peter, do you know? I don't even, is that even an amp? Oh, closer? Okay. Oh, thank you. As I mature, something's happening in my hearing.
That's fine, everybody tells me they
You're
can't
right.
hear me.
That sounds better. Yeah, actually.
There you go.
The fact, yeah.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
You want to do a test on that, see if we can hear you?
Can you hear me?
Oh, yeah.
That's
much better.
Thank you. All right. So what I heard was your plan is to schedule a public hearing.
Yes, we'd like to schedule a public hearing because we know there's some public that would like to comment. And we'd like to get everything consolidated.
Very good. I believe we have a few questions we'd like to ask before we make that decision, okay?
We discussed this.
And your name is Jill?
No.
No, see?
My name's Michelle.
Your name is
Michelle.
Michelle. Okay, thank you.
I work for Joe.
Yes, right. Okay. Yeah. No, I said Jill, I thought. Yeah, I wasn't being funny. All right. Don't want to try that again. Where are we?
So I just wanted to go through a couple items on my review letter really quick because it's pertinent to making sure that the plans are in order for you to set a public hearing. So I'm going to jump around on my letter a little bit. The first thing that I thought was the most important to talk about was my item number 24, which had to deal with the planning board's opportunity to visit the site. We had talked about a possibility of flipping the parking away from the residential neighborhood a bit, and the question arose about the size of the trees on the other side of the existing structure. And I'm wondering if everybody's had a chance to go out there, take a look at it, and what are your thoughts on the plans that are here, which are still the parking on the residential side, but they added some fencing and they added some more trees and things like that on there as well. So that was a big component in being able to make sure that the plan that the public sees is what it's in line with what the planning board's preferences are at this point.
Well, I think that having it the way they plan certainly has the least impact on the trees and the slope in the back, whereas on the side, it does affect the residential, but they're gonna address that with screening and trees, so. On the west side, stockade fence.
So what are you gonna do to protect the residential houses that would be on the area where the parking?
No, that's right, you're good.
Personally, guys, I think the public hearing is premature. I think we need to look at the plans better.
Well, I just want to respond to Dan's. You're requesting if we went out to visit, and I'll confirm I did go out to visit the site, and I did confirm that the not locating the parking lot on that one side of the house. What side is? Where's the north arrow? On the east side. Yeah. So Peter had said that they didn't want to put the parking on the east side of the house because there was a bunch of grouping of trees, and he was right about that. There is definitely a large grouping of trees there, and and where he's locating it up front there's a lot less trees, and so it was definitely intentionally or strategically designed to avoid a large amount of tree removal. There is one large tree up front. There's a really nice big tree, a couple of big trees up front, and so I probably do want to know what's going to happen with them. But other than that,
So
you know.
I'll show you, here's the tree plan here.
When you say up front, do you mean near the house or in the buffer along the road?
Between the parking lot and the road.
If it's in the buffer on the road, they'll remain.
You're gonna keep that? Yeah, and there's a big, like 48-inch tree or something. I was wondering if that's gonna remain.
Yes, that's gonna remain.
All right, so yeah, that's fine.
Where's the septic gonna go in relation to the trees in the front?
So you, just to clarify, so I went on the site visit, right? I know Rob did. Pete, you were there, right? Jason,
No, I
in
did
fact,
my own site.
you did your own site visit. Jason, did you or?
I drove by.
You drove
I
by?
didn't go on the property.
Jason, you did.
I didn't
too.
go on the property. I
Okay, all right. So did you get your answer to your question about the septic?
What you
It was
said it's
under
gonna.
the-
Under the
under
parking lot.
Parking lot. The parking lot in the front? The parking lot where?
The parking lot at the entrance.
At the entrance, right. So, that's the old road, right?
Yes,
That was the old Beekman Road?
yes, it's where that's cutting across.
Right.
Well, it's the old roadbed is part of it.
The old roadbed is where the septic's gonna go. Okay.
So we're gonna tear the old road bed up, install a septic.
Yeah, we're putting the parking in the driveway through there anyway, so we'll just put the septic under the drive and the parking.
So you go in the main entrance and you make a right, and then
Correct.
before you get to the house, that's where the septic will be.
Yes.
Right. Okay.
Amongst the trees as you drive in,
Well, it's under the parking in the drive, so,
but it's gonna be amongst,
So this
yes, well,
Yeah, it's a pretty big.
because the trees on both sides, there are trees on both sides of the, old road bed.
correct, and we'll be kind of splitting in between those. Some of them will have to come down.
Excuse me?
Some of them will have to come down just to get the drive.
All right, so you're proposing to,
show it better.
remove some of the trees on the right and the left side of the road bed as you drive in?
That's the old Beekman Road.
This is the drive-in,
Yeah.
these are parking, and those trees would have to be removed.
This is this isn't reflecting the trees. That's, yeah, so this actually shows, this plan shows the trees better.
So some of the trees that you are not going to cut down for changing the parking, you're gonna cut down for the septic.
Well, most of the trees that you saw are over here.
Excuse me?
Most of the big trees, the clump, is over here.
We'll stay there. All right, but
These are the ones.
The context of the discussion, which I was responding to, was that Dan had said to Peter, I believe he was asking, why weren't you showing the septic here, right, where all these trees are? And he said, because I'm strategically planning it so that I don't have to remove the vast majority of these trees. I'm planting it in another area to stay away from that grove. So going out there, I've confirmed that's true, he is. If he had the septic here, he would have removed the entire amount of trees.
This is the grove.
Yeah.
What did you say?
okay,
they were?
but the other thing, Robin, is my concern is along the old road bed, because I've been there also, there's a group of trees between the old road bed and Beekman Polkway Road.
Yeah.
It's these. So
It's
these are
this whole group
Yep.
of trees here.
all over here.
Right.
All of those.
So just some near the edge of the road or near the edge of the parking are going to go, but most of the grouping is going to remain. Is that correct?
Correct. All these right here
The ones with the numbers on
Why
them.
not
will
choose
remain.
the septic?
Now,
Because it will help.
Yeah.
The septic is encompassed entirely by the disturbance of the parking lot. So it's not just the septic, it's the parking lot that's also going to disturb the
so if
the
I,
tree roots.
if I may, all right,
No, it's not.
I don't actually see any existing trees on this map where Beekman Road Old Beekman Road is. So this is, you see all the ones with the numbers on them, Pete? These are the existing trees here. I circled them. You got here, this stand here, this stand, and then you've got all the ones on the front lawn that have numbers. Those are the diameters of the trees. So this is where Beekman Poquake Road, the old Beekman Road comes in.
And it comes in through here someplace.
Yep. Exactly, right to the front. Now, right through here. And they plan on putting millings all here. Everything where there's a little arrow here, whatever you want to call that marking, represents millings. So did I say that right?
Where's the septic gonna be?
They're all millings, and they're talking about putting the septic here, the septic field here. I
Well,
believe.
why not move it more away from the trees and more in an open area?
Well, yeah, well, this is the only open area that I know of.
Well,
That
it's
and
open in front, it's open in front of
In
the
front
house,
too, yeah. Well, all right, so that brings up my question.
which is where they're talking about doing some parking anyway. So, and they're not, in front of the house are not mature trees,
Right.
mature large trees.
And what you see here, Pete, these are white, these are the,
I don't care about what's proposed, I care about what's
What's
there.
existing.
To me, this plan is confusing with everything cramped down to one page and to start with,
Gotcha.
okay? So I'm trying to clarify.
Their
In my
sheet 2
mind,
does
we're-
put the X's on,
Huh?
just so you know. Like, if you go to sheet 2, which is the existing conditions and removals plan, that shows an X on any of the trees that they're proposing to remove, the existing trees. You could always ask them to, and sheet, let me see, sheet 3,
Dan, can I ask you a quick question?
Yeah.
The map I have is the one that we got at last, that was submitted after the last meeting, right? But the
you
one-
should have a last revision date of 11/28/22 on the upper right. Should be a little table with revisions. 11/28/22, right above your thumb,
This says 9
right above your thumb, right?
right here.
Yeah, 11/28/2022.
Okay, so this is current. Because I have my notes on this one.
So sheet 2 and sheet 3 both show existing trees.
No, that's all right.
Sheet 2 shows the X in them if they're proposing to
Okay.
remove those trees as part of the development.
So there's where your septic is gonna go, right there. Here's the house. Yeah, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
So if they're putting the septic under the parking lot, and the parking lot is gonna be in front of the farm market, why not move the septic more into an open area? This is a shaded area.
Yeah. And you know, what I was confused about, and I was trying to have a conversation with Pete about this, and we couldn't understand, he couldn't remember what was on his plan originally, right? And I had pointed out something that I might have misinterpreted, right? So, and I don't know whether I did or not. In the front of the house, right, you have the porch, and you put loading zone there. Now, is that loading zone for customers, or is that for trucks?
That's just for the trucks to be able to park them.
All right, so then I didn't misinterpret your plans. And he was surprised about that. And if he was here, he could tell me yay or nay.
Peter was
What,
surprised?
yeah. Now, what I didn't understand was that it appeared as though you were going to use the front of the house as a loading dock. He said no, because I didn't know where the front of the front entrance to the building was.
Right.
And I asked him, where's the entrance to the building going to be?
Why do they need so many parking spaces?
So he said that the porch is going to be the front entrance. But now, you just confirmed my concern that you have the loading dock on the front of the building. Now, that didn't make sense to me because on the side of the building is where you have the pavers,
For the number of people.
right? So you have pavers on the side of the building, and he said that the loading dock was going to be on the side of the building, along with the electric charge stations,
Excuse me now?
and
Okay, so,
and then you're going to put an asphalt walk over there.
Well,
So-
it's not really a loading dock, it's just a loading area.
A loading
And that way
area?
that way if anybody's parked, that's a clear, sort of clear space, it kind of blocks the door. So it's not a loading dock, it's just a loading zone.
Yeah, loading zones are required by our code. It's really intended for commercial uses where the delivery is from or to the building.
Yep.
It's just an area reserved so that a larger truck can get in there, whether it's a 40-foot box truck or whatnot.
Okay.
And really, it's not going to be, it's not like I wouldn't expect to have a truck there all the time. It's going to be probably an early morning or a late night type of delivery
Got it.
option from there. What you'll see in the normal time of the day is a milled, an area with millings on it or whatever they were proposing for that final service.
So my point for bringing it up is if you're going to put the septic fields under the road that the heavy tractor trailers are going to, is that okay? Is that,
If properly designed, yeah, it can be done.
it can be done?
Yeah.
Okay.
To answer your question, that the chamber companies have come up with a chamber that's H20 loaded. So we put the chambers in, and then we're also putting geogrid over the top for extra strength. There's, the new chambers out now are made so they can go into parking lots.
Okay.
This isn't your conventional septic system.
Sure.
This is
yeah, right.
a special system designed to be under parking lots. Am I stating that correct?
Yes, yeah, it's still trenches and it's still the chambers put in, it's just a little bit bigger, it's heavier duty chambers.
And on the millings, you have parking lots, and then on the side of the building, you also have parking lots, right? It's a
Yes.
total of how many? 40,
I think it was 44, I don't,
44,
I don't
45,
have-
yeah, something like that, I recall too. I counted them up myself.
The parking lot is going to be millings. That's how they're going to
In the
construct
front.
it of millings.
Yep,
yeah.
in the front, all this is millings, where they, triangles on this one,
Yeah.
is where they put it.
But could not the septic be moved?
And here are your spots.
Could not the septic be moved in such a manner that those trees would not have to be removed?
well, where the septic's going, we have to remove trees anyways for the driveway and the parking. So the trees are already being removed for the driveways and the parking, and then we'll put the septic in that same area.
All right, you and I are talking in circles.
What I think Pete is trying to say is, do you need 44 parking spots? Did I say that right?
No, not really.
Okay, sorry.
She's placing the
so-
septic in the area that's already being disturbed by the construction of the parking lot.
Where's the septic area?
It's this area here on sheet, let's see, sheet 5.
5?
All right, let's see sheet 5. Where's
And
So all these lines right here, those are the chambers.
I'll keep my site plan open, you go in.
Okay, so why can't the chambers be moved over here?
It's working here, the team.
They probably could, there's gonna be a separation requirement to the stormwater, the bioretention area, but,
You have to have 100 feet.
So my question is, why cannot the chambers be moved in a, from the intensity of where they are to, closer to the front of the building?
Where those standard trees are.
It wouldn't change the number of trees that are being taken down,
It would if you, why wouldn't it?
because we're taking down the trees for the road and the park, for the driveway and the parking.
But you have the reserve proposed for that stand of trees.
Right, because the reserves almost never get put in. We have to have a reserve somewhere.
But does the health department require you to clear the reserve area?
No,
no.
it doesn't have to be touched
Okay.
until it's needed, and I don't think there's ever been one that's needed unless you know,
It's true.
a really weird thing. But soils out there, we went out and did the deep tests, and there's no stone, no water, 8 feet deep. That's why they're in ground, and that's why we can go into the parking lot.
Even if she didn't show even if she didn't have the septic there, she'd still be removing the trees. Because she has to construct the parking there. So it's not about the septic. Now, if you're against the parking there, that's a different thing. But I could see the grade lines. She's got to grade it. And the grading alone is going to kill those trees. But it's not, I don't judge things based on, if there's one tree removed, let's throw the whole thing away. If I try to view a plan to see if they're trying to miss the trees and they're doing the least amount of impact as possible.
But Rob, there's an old road bed there. Okay? Why can't you just use the old road bed?
Part of that road bed goes through the buffer, and we were told we couldn't put the septic in the buffer.
I'm sorry?
Part of the road bed, the big area in the road bed goes through the front yard buffer area, and we were told we couldn't put the septic in the front yard buffer.
So you're saying that where you have all the parking specified, right here, that the old road is not on that?
It's part of it.
Okay,
The
yeah.
road goes, the old road bed goes kind of across through the buffer out to where the driveway, the existing driveway to the house.
Yeah, and down and out, yeah,
Yeah, it's kind of grown over the old road beds.
okay.
Okay, and that is, of course, all of this is to
Here, you want this?
meet the proposed number of seating.
Just show me the existing.
For the, yeah, the parking
Right.
requirements for the code.
All right, the proposed number of seating that you are asking the planning board to approve, that proposed number of seating.
I don't know if the planning board
I'm not-
has,
Do we have any jurisdiction over the number,
Yeah,
John?
yes, we do, for crying out. Why are we here?
No, yeah, I was asking the lawyer.
Why?
I would say more, I don't have the code in front of me to see how, whether the spots correlate to seating or square footage, but I would think it goes more to square footage, because I don't know that you can necessarily dictate how many tables and chairs they have.
Right.
That's a Department of Health.
Usually our code does dictate a certain amount of spots for commercial use.
It does,
Are you-
and they have a parking table on page 1.
Yeah.
So, did you design it to our code, is that what you're saying?
yes.
So the amount of spaces is the minimum amount of spaces required by our code, or did you add more than the minimum amount?
That I'd have to check.
I think it says there's 35 required, but there's 44 proposed. But part of the reason for that, I believe, and I don't want to speak for the applicant, but they are proposing 8 electric vehicle stations as well. That's 8 of those spots are for electric vehicles.
Well, why does that have to be on top of the, so 35 plus 8?
Yeah.
That's,
So but they don't, that can overlap that number, they don't have to displace that number.
Well, if you put an electric car space, non-electric cars, you're not supposed to park in those. And also we have 4 handicap spaces, which is more than the code would require.
Those are all proposed.
So those are restricted spaces as well.
You're adding more handicap than what's required?
Yes. Because that way the elderly or somebody that just got a,
Website.
Because of your market, because what you've determined is the market of your customers, you're gonna get more elderly.
What, the electric charge stations?
Why do the electric charge stations have to be at that particular spot? And why do the handicap, whatever is parking, have to be at that spot? Why can it not be all in the parking that's proposed in the front of the building?
I think what you're suggesting is there a way that we can lower the parking where the trees are being removed?
Well, Rob, lower the parking to lower the impact on the abutting neighbors.
So what I understand, Michelle, if you could just tell me whether I'm right or wrong, okay, on this. So the millings are in the front, you have the trucks, and you have septic, and you're trying to preserve the trees in the front. And that's where the entrance is to the cafe, the market.
Yes.
All right? Then, as you go around to the right side of the building, facing the building from the front, you have a handicap ramp coming up and onto the porch, right? And you have your 4 electric vehicle charging stations, right? There.
There's eight electric car charging
8?
stations.
Okay, 8.
And those are on the not on the building side of that parking, they're on the other side.
Oh, they're on where the stockade fence is?
Yes.
Okay, all right, so that's where the stockade fence is, okay.
The 4 handicap are up by the building.
That's what those represent, those
Yeah, and then
hash
four
Oh.
standard spaces after that. So there's
marks. Yeah, so.
8 on the right-hand side, and then there's
You're
8
right, you
electric
didn't pick up
vehicle
on that.
opposite.
That's where the E's are here. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4,
Yes.
5. All right, so here's your electric vehicle charge stations. Here are the handicap spots. And then they have the handicap ramp here.
And, right, and here's the building.
That's the building. And here's the commons over here.
So I'm saying, why is it necessary for parking to be there? Why cannot the parking be out in front, and it would be lesser of an impact on the
On this
on
existing.
the abutting neighbors?
These 2 folks here. Yeah. So this is one existing house and here's the other one. Yeah.
I would ask that to the engineer, to the applicant.
Do
Okay.
you want me to ask? Why don't you ask Michelle? Go ahead. She gets it.
Why cannot the electric charging stations and the handicap parking be moved to the front of the building
Not here.
and away from the impact on the abutting neighbors?
We could see what the county planning says, since they always want parking on the sides and in the back.
That doesn't answer, okay.
Well, I mean,
You
but
see,
you've
that
got-
doesn't answer
yeah.
my question.
Yeah, it doesn't. Because you do have
What
a
my-
bunch of spots in the front of the
What
house.
my, what
We
my,
have spaces in the front of the building.
Yeah.
what my problem is that, and it's not only this applicant, basically it's any applicant. They come in here with a proposal, what they would like to. And then we get in, and we should be in a discussion, all right? What your proposal, what you're coming to us should just be a proposal. And it should be a dialogue back and forth, expressing for whatever the concerns are, and adjustments should be made accordingly on the part of both parties, on the part of us agreeing and changes in the plan.
Yes.
And I know that there's the neighbors, the abutting neighbors in the residential area are concerned. So I have a concern about having parking between that building and the abutting neighbors.
Yes.
They're fine. It looks great on paper, but when you go out there, there's not a hell of a lot of space between the end of the building and the abutting neighbors. And when you go to put in these parking, and you're showing parking where it's the cars are going to be, some cars are going to be facing the building, some cars are going to be facing the neighbors. You're eating up most of that space out there. So I'm asking was suggesting that, fine, you want to put charging stations in, but put it at the front of the building.
Now,
Maintain that, I don't want to say,
well, the distance. from the buffer.
maintain that vegetative area, between the end of the building and the neighbors as much as possible.
Now, yeah, I mean, and it goes beyond just the charging stations, the 8 charging stations. You are proposing a stockade fence, which
Too soon? I mean,
is
long way.
is
Too
nice.
soon for public hearing.
In some ways, you know, I was hoping for a more organic buffer, a thicker organic buffer than a fence. You know, fences to me are an option of last resort. Now, the whole conversation about it's correct, pavers, right?
In that parking lot, yes.
In that parking lot on the right side of the building. And millings in the front. Now, if you have pavers there, and you have 8 cars, the thing, you know, I suppose the car is off, right, while it's charging, and the individual is inside shopping or dining. But I'm picturing headlights shining on, you know, the neighbor's property. I believe on this plan, when they start up the car and pull in and come and go using those spots. There's also a lighting plan on this this is your lighting, yeah, and your landscape plan, which is the last page for anybody who's looking. You put the proposed trees, you have existing trees, and you're showing a fairly decent amount of proposed trees in that area to reestablish the buffer that was cut down. Right? I would almost rather see additional trees rather than the stockade fence, is my opinion. I don't know about the other board members. And Pete's point about the electric charge stations there is really strong to me. And I'm just wondering if there isn't another spot for those 8 electric charge stations.
There is, move them.
And then there's
It's as simple as that.
that answer.
Move 'em.
Move them.
I'll take a
Okay,
look.
so
Right. I'm not as blunt.
So make it, if you want, consider making a compromise and putting the handicap where it is because of providing the access.
Yeah, this is their ramp for the handicap folks.
Right,
Right there.
providing the access to the existing building, okay? Okay, but then take all the other parking spaces and take the electric and move it out to the front. Okay, no matter what you do, it is going to,
What do we want with putting them there?
there's gonna be a building that you're gonna see, and there are gonna be vehicles and everything. So you're not, why try to hide it? Just put it out there in the open where it can exist, and it can have a lesser impact on here again, on the abutting properties.
And I think, you know, it would be a better way to advertise the service that you're offering as well.
Okay, can I come up to see where he's pointing to?
Please.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We better.
If you want to come around, or whatever you'd like to do. So this is your stockade fence, right? And you have your existing house here and another one right here. All right? I'm sorry, yeah. Right there and here are your existing houses. You've got, what does each E represent, by the way? You have
Those are the
12
charging
E's here. Yeah. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 E's.
He just probably put the signs in. There's only 8 stations, he's just got,
Okay.
just a,
It's the amount of parking spaces. 1, 2, 3, 4.
So eliminate these completely, move them out in front here, leave your, four handicap spacings because it'll give you access to the ramp. And then, actually, probably you would want to put some plantings in this area to protect
Thicken this up.
abutting neighbors.
Yeah.
You're
And
saying
we'll-
take those 8 and just put them around.
Bring them
Put
around.
them someplace
Somewhere
else.
I mean,
That's his.
I hate to disagree with you, but I don't understand how changing it from here to here is affecting at all the proximity to the houses. In fact, you're making it closer to this house. If you're taking it from here and putting it over here somewhere, now this house has a better view of that parking.
Yeah.
So the only way if your intention is to limit the visual impact of the
Then
parking.
put the then put the electric over there, Rob.
All right, so now what you're saying is displacing these spaces to put the electric there. So then the discussion becomes reducing the amount of parking spaces.
Okay.
And we could have that discussion, yeah.
Michelle, is there a bigger purpose to that circle at the end?
That was just for truck turnaround.
Oh, for the fire trucks too, and, yeah. Oh, for the truck to get out, yeah, because you don't have a way out.
Just made it for the truck.
I-
Or if a car and then around without backing. If they just, drove in, came back out.
I mean, I think we can ask the applicant to justify to us the need for that many parking spaces. If it's over the amount of what our code is, it's not unfair for us to ask them, why do you need more than what the code is suggesting? I agree. If we can reduce the parking spaces, generally you're going to reduce disturbance and the amount of impervious surface. So is it absolutely necessary to have 44 spaces? Can you go down to the what the code requires?
I'll have to check.
What is our code?
Okay.
It says 35 on their calculation on sheet 1.
35
Yep.
spots
For
in
the,
total?
for the number
Yep.
of seats.
Oh, for the number of seats.
The number of seats that are proposed dictates, right?
Yes, kitchen, storage, and bakery, 3,000 square foot, sitting area, 862. Retail area for customers, 798 square feet. And so then the parking proposed says retail is 1 space for every 250 of gross area. And sitting area is 47 seats, and it's 1 space per 3 seats, so that's 16 seat, let's see, 16, 19 is 35.
So they require 35 and they have 44 on the plan. 40
Right.
Yeah,
They're requesting.
they're requesting, yeah.
I mean, other than that, it's my opinion that you've designed the parking to limit the amount of impact to the trees, and I like that. And the fact that you're placing the septic under the parking in a disturbed area is also, as opposed to putting it in addition to the parking area, is favorable to me because it's a less impact on the site. Do you want to let Dan continue with, because that was just one of his comment letter. I don't know if he had like 22 items on it.
Well, I figured that was a big one because
Yeah.
it led to what people are gonna be able to see if the board decides to set a public hearing. So if there were any major changes as a result of that discussion, then they should make those changes before a public hearing would be set. So that's why I brought that one up.
Yep. So right now it appears as though they're 9 over code.
Yes.
Right, okay.
Well, wait a second. When we go to a public hearing, we're not representing to the public that we're in concurrence with the plan.
No.
There's still a chance to change the plan.
Yeah, there is. But what I wanted to make sure was that the board had put their input in and that there was a reason behind the input.
Yeah.
Which, once you went and saw the site, same with me. I changed my mind when I saw the site as well. Because I was suggesting initially, because the plans didn't really show what level of trees were on the left-hand side of the building. So I said, why would they have it over here? Let's switch the parking over there. they improved the plans, showed the trees over there, and I did the site visit, those two in combination, I understand why they laid it out more now the way that it is laid out.
You know, one question I have is, are they entitled to go to a public hearing? Is it completely in our discretion? Or as long as they meet
Yeah,
the
yeah,
requirements of the code, do we have to?
Yeah, I mean, the plans and the supporting documents should be in a suitable shape to be able to present to the public. You know, you can't go to them without having landscaping and lighting so that people can have an understanding of what the impact is to them. So it has to be developed to a certain point where all of those types of things are shown.
Well, they can have all those elements, but if we don't agree with the layout of it, they're still entitled to get a public hearing, right?
No.
So if we
There
just
has to be
simply
some
don't.
sort of, there has to be some sort of an agreement. And the plan has to be revised to represent that agreement so that when it goes before the public sees what is proposed.
Okay.
The board can ask an applicant for alternative layouts at any time.
Yeah.
You know, if
We,
you have.
ultimately, we have to make a resolution for them to go to set the public hearing.
Yeah, we have to vote.
Yeah, you'd
All
have
right.
to make a vote. yeah,
Okay,
that's correct.
no,
We all have
you're
to
right.
be in agreement.
It's fine.
Yep.
So,
And it's required by law to have a public hearing.
All right, so that's that issue. What else, Dan?
Chairman,
I'm sorry, it's not a public
Not a
hearing,
public hearing.
but I'll be more than happy to talk to you after the meeting. I'm just not allowed to right now.
thank you.
My apologies for that. There are reasons though, not just to deny you. All right?
Thank you. So Mike, one of my other comments then was number 7. We just would want to make sure that there's some architectural elevations or something for the public to understand what it's going to look like. So that should be submitted before the public hearing. You know, if the board decides to set the public hearing, that's fine. You can still submit in time for that.
There's the architectural review board.
That's right, but the public should see it too. You guys obviously have the jurisdiction on the architectural review of it.
Dan, I think the only area we have jurisdiction is the town center.
No, all commercial buildings.
All commercial buildings? Okay, thank you.
Number 14, I've referenced the refuse enclosure. I think that's an architectural, aesthetic type thing that the planning board should have some input on. They have a detail that I believe is on sheet 6 of their plan
That was
set.
the other, because that's going to be right on that side of the building too.
Correct.
Yeah, right.
It's in the back.
Basically a vinyl enclosure.
Yeah.
Everything like it is all squinched up and. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So that's right, yeah, it's right here.
We're talking about a beige, right? Is that correct? Beige vinyl?
Yes,
This is
yeah, that's what's-
proposed dumpster
blends
area.
in.
I'm sorry, you were saying, Michelle?
Yeah, the beige, just because it's a neutral color, that kind of disappears.
Is it? No.
I'm just messing with you.
Oh, okay. It's trying to confuse me, I'm sorry.
I mean, you don't have to give them input on it now. I thought it would be important though,
Okay.
if you had some issues with it now, better to let them know sooner than later. Does anybody have anything they want to talk about on that or
It's
no?
gonna be a container.
Oh, this?
On the vinyl refuse enclosure.
It would, what you're suggesting, it would look a lot like station grill, right? Only instead of
That
white,
one there, yeah.
instead of white, it would be beige.
Right, they're proposing a beige color on it, yeah.
I mean, what are our options for dumpster containers?
whatever you want. man.
Rock walls?
You want
I
rock
would,
walls,
I would just say earth tones, use
Earth tones, yeah. I
Something
mean,
that's
you could do
discreet.
cinder block and you could do
Yep.
fascia,
Sure.
right? Stuff like that. I don't know. Yeah.
Sometimes materials to match the building, sometimes, we.
Or on the other side of the building, right, is the other option, but, yeah.
It has to be accessible to a truck, so.
We're-
it's
we're-
better.
Easily
yeah.
from the back, the garbage coming out of the back building.
Here's the, okay, so here's the building,
Yep.
right? There,
Oh, I
here's an
see.
existing house and here's an
Yeah.
existing
And
house.
that's-
They're proposing
oh,
it here.
okay.
I'm thinking the buffer isn't bad, but it's thin. And there aren't enough
agree with
proposed
that.
trees here. So they're suggesting here for the dumpster. I mean, if I had to guess, it's probably maybe 40 yards from this house. And then, so there's that.
I think we should move on to the next item.
I witnessed, speak for myself, the zoning board of appeals public hearing, all right? And there was those people were there first, before this project was proposed, all right? And they have a lot of legitimate concerns that were proposed at that public hearing. I anticipate a lot of those same concerns, plus some, at the next public hearing. I'd like to minimize the visual impact and, well, we're here for their quality of life and welfare, safety, right? That's what we're here to do for them, while considering the rights of the applicant. So I'm thinking that dumpster either should be relocated, right, where it's not on that side of the building, or some elaborate proposal to mitigate the visual impact that it's going to have on them.
Could be less of a, if you eliminate some of this here,
Yeah,
you don't have to have this circle for one thing, okay? That's just something
Yeah.
just something an artist put in rather than a straight line.
Right.
We'll make it look good.
Yep.
Okay, so, if we eliminate the electrical charging stations here,
yeah,
all right, and if you eliminate extra spaces here, okay, then your impact of the, container area is gonna be less.
yep. All right. So-
My suggestion.
Yeah, no. So, as far as I'm concerned, and I'm gonna let the other members speak, Pete and I and Rob, I think, your 9 parking spots over the code. The dumpster, I'm not a fan of the stockade fence, all right? I prefer a more organic buffer and a thicker one in between the properties.
It can be in addition to the fence, if they want to.
Say that again?
Right.
It can be, yeah, if they want to keep the fence, yeah.
With respect to the parking, are we considering the first floor? And yet, there's a note here that there may be a smaller portion of the second floor used for seating?
When I was there with Pete and Jennifer, they are gonna cantilever the ceiling. I mean, not vault the ceiling,
Right,
all right? And then a portion of the second floor will remain available for what, Dan? Because that was an odd.
Yeah, I
blurb.
believe he told me that it would just be a sitting area, kind of open up your laptop.
Okay,
but does
Kinda.
that increase the number of parking spots necessary?
It's based on seats, so
and they're proposing,
47 seats is what they're proposing. However they want to lay it out within that area.
So how many parking spots do we need for 15?
It's-
35.
It's 1 for every 3, so it's 16 parking spaces as a result of the seats. And then there's a calculation based on some of the gross square footage of the building.
For people
the
just
market.
coming in and
Yeah.
staff
All
and
right,
that
but
sort of
you're
thing.
saying for what Faye's asking upstairs, that's creating 16 parking spaces?
The seating total
Yeah,
creates 16 parking spaces. They're proposing 47 seats. If they want to put
yeah.
21 upstairs and 26 downstairs,
Right.
that's 47 seats.
So based on the square footage and the seating, our code permits them to have 35
Okay.
parking
and they want
spots.
47.
And they've got 44. They have 44 on this plan,
44 parking spaces.
Dan,
on this plan,
Dan,
44 parking.
is there anything that prohibits them from
Right.
having more?
I'm sorry?
Is there any prohibition to having more parking spots?
Not that I'm aware of.
It would be if you had less than what was necessary.
Right,
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
a minimum
Right,
requirement.
right.
Yeah.
That's
Not
what
a
I'm asking.
Right.
yeah.
But it's our job to make sure that they don't fill the whole lot with parking.
No, I understand.
So that's where that comes in, the maximum comes into our discretion.
I mean, sometimes in the past, we've had land bank parking where it could become parking if that ends up becoming a necessity for them. Their business is doing great, which would be wonderful, and then they need extra spaces, but we had some land banked in the site plan.
We did that with
We did
Dollar
that dollar
General.
store.
So that's something we could consider as well.
Yeah. The problem with removing just one side of a bay, it's a very inefficient layout of parking, because either way, you have to have that full lane. Both
You need a
sides-
24-foot aisle, that's correct.
Both
Yeah.
sides are utilizing that drive aisle.
Right,
If you remove one, you still need the full drive aisle to service the other side.
but the impact of the vehicles and the physical impact of the sight line is gonna be different.
Cars
Because,
will be facing the building,
because
and the headlights will
your,
be facing the
your,
building.
forget the headlights, your operational area is gonna be there. Okay? You will not have this area here, so you will have, it will be open, there'll be vegetation, there's gonna be no millings or anything else.
Yeah.
How do they get out of there? They have to back out?
No.
Oh, if you
What
come in
do-
here,
If you come in here, you pull in here apart, it's wide enough, and what Rob is saying,
Oh,
you
yeah,
have
you
to
do a
have
K
it
and
so
go that
that
way,
you go out. You don't need this little bump, you can eliminate this little bump.
Yeah.
For instance, and, you could also change the,
the shape, yeah.
you could also change the shape of the parking area.
Yeah.
You could take this and
Yeah.
bring it down here like this.
Michelle,
And
question on the EV
cut over.
stations. Are they EV charge stations like pay to charge, or is it like, in some cases, it's just a trickle charge, like for a small period of time? What is it?
I'm not sure what it's proposing, whether it's pay or trickle.
Is there gonna be any proposals or any restrictions on overnight parking to charge vehicles?
Probably, because usually commercial doesn't want people for liability reasons overnight.
Right. I'm just asking.
But I'll find out.
I had to shift gears, sorry.
That's a good question.
No, that was a good question. Yeah. So what was the answer? I didn't
She's
hear.
gonna
She's gonna check.
She's gonna check, okay.
Because like the ones that were at Stop and Shop are like a small trickle charge, the amount of time in there versus
Right.
pay.
Right.
So just,
Yeah, there's usually like 3 levels of chargers. 'Cause I have an electric car. Level 1 is like a really slow charge. It would take me 3 days to do a full
Right.
charge on my car. The level 2 takes me 8 hours to do a full charge. Fast charging, DC charge, fast charging can be done in like an hour.
Huh.
So at a minimum, I'm sure it's going to be level 2. I don't even know if they make chargers that do level 1 charge.
the
That's
level
like,
ones are the ones that were proposed at Stop and Shop. That's
I
EV.
think you're level 2.
They were like that minuscule charge.
Level 1 is like an outlet. You plug into an outlet. It's not even a charger, it's just an
So
outlet.
are you suggesting
Most of it is the
This may be an area
advertising.
for
We put them in.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
But-
That was a good
We're
point.
also-
you brought
we're
up.
But
also
that's a
change
good
the
question
shape of
because
this- shape of this
when I
and-
park, when I go somewhere with the car in a distance, I look for places I can keep the car overnight. That way while I'm sleeping, it's charging.
Right.
So it is a good question whether people are gonna be utilizing that parking lot at night, you know? Because someone,
make a sound?
someone in the neighborhood may say, all right, I don't have a charger at my house, I'm gonna bring it over to Barton's and leave my car there overnight and let it charge overnight, and then I'll come pick it up in the morning.
And it's a source of revenue for them to do that, but that's gonna be an impact on the neighbors, because there's always gonna be cars there, potentially.
And does it make a humming sound or anything like that?
It's pretty quiet. No, the charger's almost dead silent.
It's not like a transformer.
It's not like a transformer.
The person drinking the beer.
Person drinking the beer there, or reading the book in the car with the light on. So, all right, I think we have to give Michelle some direction, right, as far as where we're at? Or do you know where we're at?
Like
I
they-
do, other than, you know, I want to
Okay,
be able to
so
play what the public
I,
wants to
I'm gonna
do.
just speak from what I've interpreted, and then I'll let them speak. We think you're about 9 parking spots over. Why I'm mentioning that is because of what Pete brought up, the 8 charging stations and their proximity to the existing homes, all right, and the buffer. Pete brought up an option that's acceptable to him, and I'm okay with it. As you're coming in, that roundabout that you have, that could be reshaped, all right? And parking maybe can, well, I don't know about what was your feeling about? Because now you have the electric vehicle, well, that doesn't satisfy the electric.
I don't concur with
Yeah.
changing the turnaround because that's not an artistic expression. There's an engineering purpose behind that,
Functional purpose.
which is to
Swing a truck.
Give the
Swing a
trucks a
truck,
turn
yeah.
around, yeah.
All
You're not
right,
gonna swing a fire truck and back it out.
so maybe the UV stations can go on the other side of the building,
Say that
by the
again?
chimney. I don't know. On the chimney
don't
side
have
of the
parking.
building. Is
You're
that
saying get
possible?
rid of the turnaround.
I'll look into that.
Yeah.
I'm
So,
responding to your comment where you said,
Yeah.
don't have the turnaround.
Dan, do you see any reason why the chimney side of the building isn't an option for them as far as?
Just looks like it's scaling at about 1 inch to the trees, which is, it's a 30 scale plan, so there's only 30 feet there before you start hitting the trees.
And that's not enough?
Well, an aisle, a travel aisle is normally 24 for the two-way traffic, because you can have an
Okay.
in and out.
What if you just put 1 bay rather than 2?
Oh, you,
Just the electric vehicle charging stations there. So
yeah,
that's,
they may be able to work something out there.
That's
I
one
mean,
thought.
just
Maybe they,
put paper to, pen to paper on that one.
yeah. I don't know. Is that?
I would agree with the
would you?
adding of buffer plantings between the parking area and the adjacent residences.
And Rob's compromise, if the stockade fence is important to the applicant, right? Doing both is another option. The stockade fence and the plantings, the more robust plantings.
Are we gonna give Michelle a specific on what kind of robust plantings we're looking for?
They've already proposed. I
Yeah,
was gonna comment that the white spruce that they're proposing, white spruces are dying like crazy these days. They got a very bad disease. You plant them, they're probably not gonna make it.
That was my next thing I was gonna ask, because that was number 15, was talking about the trees, the landscaping, which is an
Yeah.
important component here.
Not too many spruces you can use these days.
So do you have a preference of what you like?
Well, I mean, if you're gonna use a spruce, I'd use the Norway spruce. I know it's not native, but also white pines are nice.
they put here a white cedar are all the black ones.
They're actually, they're trying to be native. I don't know who's designing this. It's a good idea to go with native plantings. It's not a bad idea. But the white spruce, even though it is native, is subject to this disease right now.
Now after you see all this, it's time to take another ride out.
Yeah, we start native, and then planning boards can suggest other things. When we don't start native, planning boards tell us to go
Right.
native, so we always start native. And
Yeah, no, that's
then,
great.
Then take your input and
That's-
add
that-
what you like.
That's very well intentioned, and I like the intention of it. It's just I just think the white spruce isn't gonna give us the service we need it to, which is to remain there alive, buffering.
Right, and I like Norway
But white
spruces
pine,
better.
you know, white pines are native.
Right, but I like Norway spruces, I've always liked those, but I always get them, usually when I put them on plants,
Unfortunately,
they
they're not native, and I know I suggested it, but only because it's not invasive.
Right, it's,
So it's a non-native, non-invasive, so it's kind of okay.
well, it's a nice looking tree too, it's got a nice shape.
It is, it's beautiful, yeah. So maybe just a combination of Norway spruce and white pine, and like you suggest, the white
cedars
the
proposed.
white
as
cedar.
Bamboo.
Never, never put bamboo in.
So what else, Dan?
Well, that was comment 15, had to do with the 23 white cedars and 21 white spruce proposed. I think if they're, I think part of the intention of the fence was to block headlights and also the literal view that might happen underneath a mature tree.
Yeah.
So
That blocks the headlights.
it might not be as much about putting trees as it might be about putting a variation of different heights of species and variation of species
Right.
to really give it a full, robust screening through there. If that's what the board wants instead of a fence, I think that would make more sense.
You know, I would almost be inclined to let the public weigh in on that when we have the public hearing.
Right through there.
Where you could leave the stockade fence
So
there
the planning,
on this plan. Consider our other suggestions, and then at the public hearing, we could, once we have their input,
Sure.
have a better direction,
These are proposed. These are existing. This is like a swale.
So, rather than try to come up with a place, a contingency plan for the dumpster, right? A contingency plan for the electric vehicle parking, so that you don't feel like you have to do it one way or the other right now. And then after the public hearing, we could then, as a board, consider their concerns, and then we could make decisions that would satisfy everybody.
Yes, yeah, that's kind of why I'd like to get the public hearings,
Yeah,
so that you guys can hear what the public
right.
has to say, besides what you just heard through the grapevine, and then,
So rather than maybe change this one, come up with a contingency of our
Yes.
concerns?
Oh, I'd like to find.
and I could,
Is that-
I did,
You can, yeah. Because at the end, we'll decide anyway, you know. He wanted a mother to
I know what
himself.
he wants.
He's got to hear you, that's all.
You can hear me, right?
Frankie goes back and forth with $300 microphones. Please don't do that, I'm serious.
Oh, really? 300 apiece.
I think it's premature to have the public hearing, request the
Yeah.
public hearing.
Okay.
I think that based on the discussion tonight, that there need to be revisions, and I think that you need to come back with
Contingency.
the revisions before we have a public hearing.
All right.
I do not want to be pushed.
Dan, are there any other engineering issues?
One thing I thought the planning board should discuss also, it's in our code that parking space, or parking lots are to be curbed.
Curbed.
And,
Yeah, you mentioned that.
I'm not sure that that's always in the spirit of the kind of plan that somebody's looking to do. And I think that the board has flexibility in being able to give some guidance to the applicant. So I have to look at it from, it's in our code, so I'm looking to the planning board to give us some guidance on, and the applicant guidance on whether or not you're gonna wanna have curbed areas here. There are a couple of things that are curbed, protecting lights and some other things that makes a lot of sense, but, you know, does the planning board wanna see a curb site that's where, you know, curbing, holding in millings? Doesn't exactly jive, for me, but.
The curbing could be a natural curbing, which just could be a 6-inch rise at the edge, which then would be a 6-inch rise and then have it bleed off.
The benefit of the curbing, obviously, you know, you can direct your stormwater better, you can maintain, you know, your millings they're gonna get pushed over time, you know. When millings are set, if you set them in the heat and you compact the heck out of them, they almost become as tight as asphalt, really. But I've also seen a lot of applications of millings where it's pretty loose. And then sometimes you get that March thaw and things are moving around on the subgrade and it's moving this way and that, and it's just kind of breaking it up. You get a snowstorm, they're plowing it, they're moving chunks. So, you know, the curbing helps kind of contain some of that, but then there's also, you know, a look and a feel for a rural farm market area. So just things for the planning board to consider.
The new building down on Overlook Road where Hatfield sheet metal is, they put a new building in and they put in millings. And I was down there today and noticed, and you can see where a vehicle made a swing. It cut the millings.
Wow.
I mean, my opinion is this is a farm stand. I just drove upstate last weekend. I probably visited 3 farm stands. If this is a farm stand, that's a part of our code that doesn't really fit well within this type of use. So the indication to require, I'm not sure why our code requires curbs, other than maybe directing drainage and things like that. But it's, as far as the character of the proposal, it's just farm stand. It's meant to be, even if it was dirt, that's what most farm stands are, it's dirt.
Yeah.
You know? And so what troubles us is that it's kind of a big farm stand. It's not really
farm market.
It's not really like a typical farm stand that you see along the sides of the road. This is almost more like a commercial farm stand. But I don't think we should have curbs on it. I just think it's incumbent upon the applicant to demonstrate to us that they're dealing with the stormwater properly. You know, because now it's gonna just sheet off. And that's fine. That's actually, if it's gonna sheet off into a vegetative area, they just need to demonstrate to us that that's their stormwater measure in addition to the, you know, the bioretention basin. So I'm okay with the plan not having curbs. I just think it's not required. I can't conceive of an issue of it not having the curbs. Do we think I think the question we would ask ourselves, if it's not having curbs, is the drainage going to be a problem? Is it going to be a problem for a neighbor? The curb would mediate that issue. It would prevent that. And I would prefer, let's stay with the farm idea, the farm stand idea, not have curbs and not have so much parking. Keep it more informal.
Right. If any board members haven't been to the Apple Core, all right, Peter made it very clear that that was the character, even product line that he was going to carry over, minus the cidery, that it doesn't exist at the Apple Core. I was there for the first time this morning, and It really was lovely to me.
Yeah.
And exactly what you're saying about the millings.
How many parking spaces do they have there?
I can't, I'd say maybe 16 if I had to guess. Yeah.
Not many.
Not many. It is right off of
Knoxon.
Titusville. Is
Oh,
it
there's-
Knoxon or
Knoxon.
Titusville?
But there's no provision for sitting. It's just you go in, you buy, you leave.
Well, I ate in there.
You
Right on,
did?
yeah, right on the left is a bar,
Oh,
is like
I
a,
didn't see that.
it's a live milled, counter
Oh, okay.
that you sit at.
I didn't
I
see
I
that.
actually liked it a lot.
Nice.
He said it was lovely.
It was lovely. I was gonna get
Would you
one of
get
the
the
hats
dumplings?
today.
Did you get a dumpling?
He has nice hats, and I was gonna wear it at the meeting.
Oh, boy.
It says Barton Architects on it.
But Fay,
It's a
you're
nice
right, it's mainly come in, buy your
experience. It
produce,
was a lovely experience.
whatever, buy the product and leave.
Right. So, yeah.
It has great dumplings.
But I think if you want a good idea, the chicken soup was delicious.
Was it?
Yeah. It's very good. And paninis.
Okay, guys,
you know
it's
what I mean?
raining, I think
Yeah.
it's time to go home.
All right.
Before talking about
The
chicken
only,
soup.
so, what was it?
Sounds
Oh, all right. So, Michelle, one of the things that occurred to me is on the front lawn of this property, I don't know whether he's going to do what he did there at the Apple Core here, but he had picnic tables out. That would have to, you and I talked about that, I believe, right? So if that was his intention, those would need to be on the plan as well.
Okay.
All right? I
Seats
think-
accounted for, that heads to parking as well.
Yeah, so,
Picnic tables?
Wastewater generation, it's all.
I just
it's all
wanted to
relative.
mention that, yeah. But,
Chair,
So-
I, respecting Peter's opinion that if this doesn't move forward, shouldn't move forward for a public hearing, I think you should ask the rest of the members of the,
yeah, yeah.
well, how they feel about that.
So, we could do a straw vote here, is that something I should do?
It could be in a
What
discussion.
Rob is suggesting.
So, people that are here from the public, I apologize for not, people that are here from the public, I apologize for not being able to talk directly to you and you asked me questions, but after the meeting, you could talk to me. I don't know if you saw the last, right? So the property's been districted in, and he has a right to build this market on that parcel of land. So a lot of work was done to determine whether that was true or not. And I've had conversations with planning at Ag-a-Market level, right? Just to say that to you directly right now, and then we can talk. You've waited here patiently after the meeting. We're going to end it shortly. So, having said that,
You know, we can keep it a discussion, and everyone opine
yep,
if they are ready to opine, but
yeah.
my opinion is, I don't think there would be any harm with allowing this to move forward to the public hearing. I think we could still make changes. I'd like to hear what the public has to say,
I think that's important.
and I'm not so much against the site plan. I don't think it needs such a dramatic change that I would limit its ability to go to the plan. So I would be for voting on a resolution tonight to move the project forward to at least a public hearing.
I agree with Rob. I think I'd love to hear what the public thinks, because they may come up with something that's helpful
Right.
in this process, so I'm comfortable going forward.
Jason?
I want to hear what Pete's thoughts are.
Pete? Well,
An hour?
and so I think what Pete wants to make sure that his concerns, my concerns, and all of your concerns are eventually considered, one way or another. So what I'd like is the contingencies that we spoke about considered, and drawings should be prepared so that the public can see those contingency plans if we vote for the public hearing here. Because then after the public hearing, we want to be able to discuss what's in the best interest of everybody involved. All right? If not, I'll adjourn the public hearing. Okay? And until that's done, if that makes sense. So that would be my compromise.
Dan, if Michelle was gonna prepare any material, when does that have to be into you by, so it could be reviewed and then available for the next meeting?
The next submittal deadline is the 30th. So they
Is that
have
enough time, Michelle?
a week and a
Yeah,
half.
well, normally it's here to Mondays,
Okay.
so that's a good long time.
All right?
Well,
So,
I'm willing to make I don't know
Yes.
everyone's
Think-
opinion on this, but I'll make a motion
okay.
to, how do you say that? We're making a motion to have a public hearing next
Set a
meeting?
public hearing at
Set
the
a
February
public-
16th, 2023 meeting.
Okay, so I'll make a motion to set a public hearing for the next planning board meeting on February 16th.
I'll second.
Roll call vote.
Okay.
Peter Poltrak,
No, go ahead. Fine.
John Fristacci, aye.
Rob Lopane, aye.
Figurito, aye.
Jason Abbott, aye.
John, what I want to say is, I just do not want to be married
You're not.
to the proposed plans.
Right.
Okay, I do believe in the public hearing and the input, and I think that's extremely important. But I think also at the public hearing, it should be pointed out at the start that the proposed plans are not cast in,
Stone,
thank you,
Roman
cast
stone.
in Roman stone, that's right. That,
We haven't given conditional
strictly
approval, we're just
discussion.
moving
Right.
public hearing.
This is just a,
They do not reflect our approval of their proposal.
right. Because we haven't voted to approve the sketch at this point, right?
That's correct.
So,
I move we adjourn.
okay.
I mean,
Yeah, I do.
So I think that Jonathan also might have some, do you, I didn't mean to say that.
No, I don't have any.
You don't?
any-
Have all of your questions been answered?
Yes.
Okay.
And I would just add, for just, make sure the applicant's aware of the notice requirements for the public hearing, I know.
Yeah, I was gonna, do I check with you, Dan, or do I check with
Colleen.
Colleen?
Please. Thanks.
Okay. Anything else now?
That's all I have.
All right.
I think
Before
we're-
we adjourn, we have to approve
I think we're done with this applicant, though.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you, Michelle. Yep. And Dan, we have to approve the dates, right?
Yes.
Okay. So everybody see the dates
I
for
did.
our meetings?
Is it on anybody's birthday?
No.
Or wife's, spouse's birthday?
But I won't be here that date. OBX.
Oh.
Oh, yeah.
Everyone is
I'll be
still
in
the
the
third
ocean.
Thursday.
Okay.
I hope.
I won't be around in August.
It's
Yeah,
understandable.
fine. July I won't be. Two
You won't
weeks
be
in
around in
July I'm
August.
gone.
Congratulations.
Finally. OBX.
Can I have a motion to approve the minutes, the dates?
So moved?
Second?
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Can I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Oh, God, yes.
In a second? All right, all in favor? Aye. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Take it all.